Hey, it's Marthea Pitts, the MSW coach, and I am going live to share 10 myths you should know about getting macro social work jobs, because they are probably stopping you from getting the job that you want. So I'm going to pin a comment. And I'm going to be real quiet for a moment while I type this. Hey, I'm typing a comment in the box. Drop as you come in the room. Drop your location in the world, your city, your state, your country, and then we're going to jump into 10 myths that's probably stopping you from getting the macro job that you've always wanted. Let me type this comment before I get into it, but drop in the chat and tell me where you are. High paying macro social work job. And we're going to get into this conversation because y'all need to know these myths, aka lies. That's what I wanted to put in there. You know, I love that word. Because when the truth ain't the truth, we got to call it what it is. Okay, New Jersey in the building. Okay, New Jersey. Have I had somebody from New Jersey in the live? I think you may be the first one. We're going to jump into this conversation because yesterday I went live and I talked about how a one-page resume, if you're following that rule, you need to abandon it because you're not giving the people enough information to make a well-informed decision around what makes you a top candidate. So if you missed that live, I encourage you to scroll back once we're done in the feed and watch the replay. I gave a lot of I gave a lot of strategies away around the length your resume should be, what your objective is when writing your resume, the parts that you should include in your resume. I even gave multiple different examples on how to draft your bullets for your resume. So if you missed that live, I encourage you to go back and run past that real quick. I think it was only 25 minutes. It's jam-packed with information that you can take and hit the ground running. But today I wanted to talk about, I was sitting up here and I was scrolling around on the internet. And why do I do that? And I always come across a bunch of mistruths about macro work. And I was like, let me come on and talk about the ones that I see the most. And so I made a quick list of the 10s, what I consider as of right now to be the top 10 that I normally hear people live by. But before we get started, drop in the chat where you are in the world, what city, what state, what what your location is in the world, city, state, country, whatever you are comfortable with sharing. And then I'm going to share these myths. Why? Because it's most likely stopping you from getting a job that you always wanted. I cannot tell you the number of stories I have heard from social workers since 2020 when I jumped on the scene about how many social workers wanted to do macro level work, how they went into their degree program and that was their first choice, and for whatever reason, insert the reason, they were either dissuaded, they were told that it was impossible, or maybe they just didn't have an option based on the degree program that was available to them to go the macro track. However, I want you to know that you don't have to go a macro track to get a macro job. And I want to let you know that you don't have to do a lot of the things that other social workers, be it your professor, be it your colleagues, be it your peers, tell you have to do to get macro jobs. So I want to bust 10 myths. I really wanted to call them lies, but we're going to call them myths. We're going to be PC today. And we're going to jump right into it. So the first common myth that I hear being spewed around the social work streets is that you either have to have leadership experience or you have to do leadership level work to get a macro job. And I want to say that is not true. That is a complete lie, right? And I have my whole thoughts around where these mistruths originated from, but we're not going to focus on that today. But you don't have to have leadership experience. I have had multiple of my matter of fact, I would say 80% of my coaching clients consider themselves to be introverts, right? Because I am an introvert in my personal life and I attract my people. So oh, you can't hear me. Can you hear me now, SC? Somebody put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. Well, 1 in the chat if you can hear me, or 2 if you can't. Okay, thanks, Boz. Okay, Essie, you might need to go out and come back in. Okay, thanks, y'all. Okay, so a large percentage of my people that find me are considered to be introverts, right? So what that means is that because of that fact, a lot of them don't have aspirations of leadership, right? And a lot of them don't have leadership experience. And I say that because the ones that I'm talking about, and I can count like 10 right now and name names that have gotten macro jobs, they have not been required to do like front-facing leadership. What I teach my coaching clients is that when you are pivoting outside of case management, you really can choose how you want to show up in your career, right? In case management, you really don't have a lot of choice. You have to take what the people give you and do what they tell you to do. However, once you start moving up the ladder, you get to choose how you want your day-to-day work to look like. And not even when you move up the ladder, when you start taking real control of your career, you choose how you want to show up. So I want to say that if you have no desires of being in leadership, having a leadership role, or maybe you do have a desire to do leadership, but you're like, I can't get a macro job because I don't have leadership experience, I want you to know that is a lie. I'm just going to use the word lie. I like to use the word lie. We ain't going to call it a myth. We're going to call it a thing. You don't have to have leadership experience or do leadership work to get a macro job. That's a myth. That's a myth. My first macro job, I never had a leadership experience at all anywhere on my resume. And my first macro job was as the director of a global learning program that I designed that's still in existence to this day. And I got that job with 0 leadership experience, 0 related leadership degrees. I only did it with my MSW degree and my case management background. The second lie that the people like to tell y'all is that you have to network for macro jobs, right? And again, I'm an introvert. I attract a lot of my people, introverts, a lot of people that work with me one-on-one or in the micro to macro career accelerator, in the career incubator, or come to my workshops. You are identified as introverts. So the idea of networking probably disturbs your soul on some level. And I'm always like, we don't even talk about networking. Networking is not a strategy of mine. You will not hear me ever tell my people to go do informational interviews. Now, is that something that they want to do? I will support them. However, that's not a part of the strategies that I teach people, which ironically enough, my people get jobs off of the old traditional way of getting a job. Writing a resume, filling out an application, submitting it through the website. That's how my people get jobs. And as of today, I've helped well over 170 plus social workers get macro jobs through those very traditional methods, because I teach them how to stand out in the sea of the other 1,000 people who are applying to the same job. The third lie that they like to tell y'all is that you have to live in a big city, right? That you have to live in a big city, or that you have to move to a big city, that you have to live in Washington, D.C., or maybe that you have to live in New York, or you have to live in some type of major city. I want to say that's a lie. How do I know that to be true? My first macro job and every macro job that I've ever had after that, I lived in a very rural town, where we barely had one mall, and it really isn't a mall anymore. It's just like a place where stores open up, but we don't even have major stores there. We have a very tiny airport. Like, it's rural. It's a college town. And if you know, college towns usually are in rural towns, right? So I want to say that you do not have to live in a big city to get a macro job. My last macro job was with one of the oldest think tanks in the country in Washington, D.C. DC. And guess what? I worked remotely from the comfort of my home. I would log in the morning and log off in the evening. I would travel to Washington, DC. I would say in the beginning, like every month, and then every 2 months, right? Paid travel. I got paid to travel from my home. I got paid to advocate, do my work, because I focus on advocacy and national level work. So I got paid to do that from the comfort of my home in a rural town. So I want to say, if you've ever heard that myth and you're like, I can't apply for macro jobs because I live in a small town and I can't move to the big city, it's a lie. You can. And ironically enough, 169 of my coaching clients have gotten remote macro jobs, right? I only had one person that got an in-office job, and that's because she wanted in office, right? So the fourth myth that I hear a lot or see a lot perpetuated on the social work streets is that you have to run for political office to be classified as a macro social worker. That is a lie. You don't. Macro social work is many different things, right? And technically it's not even called macro social work. It's just called macro level work. Why? Because there are a multitude of other different professions that do that level of work. However, because it's our profession, we categorize it as that. However, national and international level work can be done by any profession. And with that being said, it does not just include political work. So if you have no desires of running for political office, you still can get a macro job. You don't have to you don't have to launch a campaign. You don't have to be on anyone's commission or run for a special office. If you want to do that, that's great. That's considered to be political social work. However, macro social work, you don't have to run for political office, okay? Myth number 5, lie number 5. And I used to hear this more so from social workers who attended my workshops. This was something that they had been hearing over the years. They were told over and over that you have to have years and years and years. This is how they would explain it to me. Years and years of related experience in the macro type job that you were going for to get it. Right? And I feel like I need to give you all a little context to all of these mistruths and where I feel and where I have deduced they originated from. In the field of social work, it's documented in the scholarly research. If you're a researcher, go do some Google searches. You'll see it out there. There is tons and tons of scholarly research around the fact that macro level work is not clearly defined in the social work literature. Okay, so what that means is, like, clinical, you could easily pull up a definition about clinical social work from a Google Scholar search, and they'll break it down. They'll tell you what it includes, what it entails, who does it, what types of organizations, the different modalities, the licensure requirements, all of the things, the scope of work for a clinician, where they work, all of the things, right? However, when you look up macro social work, it's not as clearly defined. Hence the reason why you can go to one source and they will define macro level work as one thing. And then you'll go to another source and they'll define it a different thing. However, when you look at clinical social work, all of the definitions are the same, right? And so I say that to say, because there is no clearly defined scope of work for macro level work, it's a very elusive part of our profession. So with that, over the years, and I've researched the thing, but go do your due diligence on it. Because of this, people have adopted what they believe macro level work is. Hence the reason why all of these mistruths, lies have been birthed over the years, which are doing you a disservice as a job seeker, because you are being told these things and you're believing them, of course, because you trust the sources that are giving them to you. And you have initially exit off your list because you think it's not possible because the people told you. However, how I define macro level work is based on what the job market says. Right? So, for example, one of the other mistruths that I hear all of the time, where is it on my list? I think I kind of deleted it. well, no, I have it on here, is that macro level work is only grant writing. I used to hear that all the time when I jumped on the scene. Like, people would say, I don't want to be a grant writer. I don't want to do grant writing. I'm like, why do you think macro level work is only grant writing? And they were like, because that's what people told me over the years. I don't even classify grant writing as macro level work. And I say that to say this: what I teach my coaching clients is how to go out and look in the actual job market to identify what are macro opportunities based on their interests, based on their population that they're passionate about, based on the issue that they're passionate about. So, for example, and I can use this as an example, I met with one of my coaching clients today who's in the micro to macro career accelerator. We were working on her macro resume intensive that I do one-on-one with my coaching clients. And she came into the program thinking that she wanted to do something policy related. However, what's different when you work with me is that I help you figure out creative ways to blend what you're passionate about into your career, into your macro career. So after we conducted an assessment, I did some evaluation with her. What she uncovered through my 3Ps framework, which is how I help people blend what they love into their career, is that she is super passionate about event planning. So much so that she does it in her free time. She has this whole organization that she has created ground up for fellow clinicians. Also, fun fact, 98% of my coaching clients are clinicians that always wanted to do macro level work. However, they were told that they never could. So they come work with me to get the macro jobs, right? So she started this peer community for fellow clinicians around wellness and taking care of themselves. Because, of course, what the work you all do as clinicians is very hard. So with that, she does a lot of events, right? She does a lot of retreats, a lot of workshops, a lot of webinars, a lot of community building to build belonging for the people who are in her community. And so I was telling her, I was like, you could get a macro job doing event planning, because what I've realized over the last 4 years, almost 5 years at this point, since we're helping social workers get macro jobs, is that the things that you do in your free time is really what you want to do in your career full time. You just don't know how to get a job doing that. So because we all have to pay bills, you have played the safe role and done the job that you know will pay your bills, right? Which leads to a lot of people being unfulfilled, right? A lot of people being dissatisfied in their career because you're working, but you don't really like it. You don't really enjoy it. And how I know this to be true is a large number of social workers have a lot of volunteer things that they do on the side to try to build in moments of joy, happiness, satisfaction for themselves. However, in your attempt to get some happiness in your life, you are overworking yourself. You're running yourself in the ground, right? So that's why I'm like, I could teach you how to blend that into your career and get you one job that pay you so well you won't need multiple jobs. And if you want to go do some passion projects on the side, you can. But if not, you can spend that time traveling. You can spend that time spending it with family and friends, shopping, baking, cooking, because y'all love to bake and cook, right? You can spend time with your pets, spend time with your family. So my coaching client that I met with today, I was like, you can get a job doing event planning. And so right now she has already started applying to event planning jobs with national organizations using her clinical background. She's already being recruited for the thing, right? She started applying weeks ago. We're just fine tuning her resume right now. So I want to say that many of you think that macro level work is only policy, advocacy, grant writing, leadership, political work. Those are the most common ones that I hear. Drop one in the chat if you've heard something different as to what macro level work is. But I want to tell you that macro level work is any work where you're working with a mission-driven organization, with an organization that is working to address some issue in the world. And your role in that organization can look any way that you want. And if you don't get anything else from this lie, stop letting the people lie to you. Okay? That's my whole point. Stop letting them lie to you. If you like accounting, you can blend that into a macro career. If you love the arts, you can blend that into a macro career. I had a coaching client who came from being a school social worker for 20 years. Actually, I think she had did it for 22 years. She was beyond burnt out. She came through she came through cohort 4. And at the time, she said that she had attempted to get a macro job multiple times over those 20 plus years because that's always what she wanted to do. And so she enrolled in my program to get coaching from me, thinking like, this ain't gonna work. It ain't gonna be possible. I'm like, we could do it. I said, what do you like to do outside of work? And I used my 3 P's framework with her to help her uncover that. She was passionate about playing cultural instruments in her free time. She volunteered in this cultural band on the weekend. Like, that's what she did in her community. She also was passionate about advocating for immigrants and their integration into the American society, right? And she identified through the use of the 3 P's framework how she wanted her work to look. How did she want her work look to day, right? You get a choice. Do you want to be writing all day? Do you want to be out teaching and training? Do you want to be behind the scenes doing evaluation? Do you want to be insert your thing? So what she uncovered was that she really wanted to do research. However, she was holding on to the belief, and we're jumping into another one, so I'm kind of throwing all of my myths in there. She was believing that you had to have a PhD or a DSW degree to do research. And I'm like, who told you that? That's a lie. You don't have to have that. How do I know? I had a job as a researcher, and I don't have a doctoral degree, right? But anyway, I was like, we can blend your love for the cultural instrument, your love for immigrants and advancing the access that they have, and we can blend your desire to do research level work, even though you are coming from a very traditional school social work background. And guess what? In less than 3 months, she got a job with a research institution where she now does work around research on using the arts to help immigrants integrate into American society. Everything that she wanted. However, the way that she was able to get that job was not by starting with a list or asking the question, what can I do with my degree? The way she was able to get that job is the way that I taught her, the things that I did in my own pivot to macro level work, the things that I've taught my 170 other plus clients that have gotten macro jobs. And we start with, what do you want your career to look like? Right? And so many of you are going about it wrong. And that's why I'm on here tonight to change, to bust some of these myths. You should not be starting with, what can I do with my degree? The question should be, what type of job do you want? And the truth is, a lot of social workers don't know what type of macro job they want. Right? And so if you're trying to skip the necessary steps of clarity, of getting clear around what issue you're passionate about, and you're trying to jump to job searching or jump to resume writing, your results are not going to be good. And if you do get a job, a macro job, you are going to be like the macro social workers that I didn't work with, who want to work with me, who do work with me behind the scenes, who are unsatisfied in their macro job. Why? Because they believe the lies that the social work streets had told them around policy is the only thing you can do as a macro social worker. So you have all of these macro social workers that you all admire from afar, who don't tell you publicly, who hate their jobs because they went and got macro jobs doing policy work, and they're artists. They are people that like to network. They are people who, they don't like sitting in an office writing all day, Right? So if you're just joining, I'm sharing the myth. So I'm sharing this so you can see that the mistruths that you hear in the social work streets are hurting you more than helping you, and why it's important for you to be proactive. I did a workshop recently, and I talked about the importance of having the difference between high career intent and low career intent. Low career intent is where you are very passive in your career, where you take what the people give you. You don't really put in any extra effort. You don't really have any desires or expectations. You're okay with whatever the people give you. High career intent is where you go out and you educate yourself, where you go over and beyond your degree program and you really study the job market, the labor market, to figure out what opportunities are out there that are in alignment with what I want to do. It's where you get very self-reflective to figure out what is it that you want to do, instead of bouncing from one job to another job to another job because you at the root are unfulfilled. Right? So I encourage you all. The reason I'm sharing this is for a few different reasons. I want to bust the myths, and then also too, I want to encourage you to shift to having high career intent. Stop being passive. You're letting the people lie to you, and it's holding you back from being great. Right? I always say I don't get on here because it's fun. I just told y'all I'm an introvert in my personal time. But I get on here because you all are really truly the next generation of leaders. However, you're not in the positions where you should be because you keep believing the lies that the people told you. Right? And we got to remember, we live in a broken system. We live in a broken society. Do you really think they want people to go out and change the world, or at least attempt to make it a little bit better? No. There are people who want us to uphold the status quo. So this is why you have to shift from having low career intent to high career intent and educate yourself. Right? Everything that I teach, I didn't learn in a book. I didn't learn in a classroom. I didn't learn in my social work degree program. I learned it because I wanted to know, how can I get as proximate to power as possible to fix the issues in the workforce development system that I work within currently as a case manager. And I went out and found jobs that afforded me the opportunity to do that. And I now teach other social workers how to get in those positions. So another myth that you all really hold true to is that you have to volunteer to get macro jobs. That's a lie. You ain't got to volunteer. I don't tell my people to volunteer. None of us volunteer. We too grown to be volunteering. We're not in high school no more. We've done our practicums. We've done our internships. We need to be compensated, and we need to be compensated well for our time. And I'm sure that is true for many of you all. Like my mama told me years ago, don't nobody work a job just because. We working to get paid. So another lie is that you have to volunteer. Stop letting the people lie to you. It's a lot of you all who are 30, the mid 30s, 40s, 50, out here volunteering for jobs when you have more than enough experience to get the job you want. You just don't know how to uncover the experience. This is why you need to work with me. You're not going to be able to uncover it. You're not going to be able to see where your experience is. Just like my coaching client earlier that I told you, I was like, you can get an event planning job. She's like, you think I can? I was like, you can. Now when we leave our resume intensive session, she's like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize I did all of this. Come to find out today, she has raised fundraised over $1 million in in-kind donations to host the event she was doing in her hospital system. She didn't even know she did the thing. How did she identify it? Because I identified it for her. That's why you need to work with someone who's well informed about what the job market is looking for, what these employers are looking for. Now I'm like, so when we left the office hours today, I was like, that's gonna get you your macro job. That alone is gonna get you the macro event planning job that you want. Right? I have other coaching clients. Monet was the same way. Monet was working in social services. She had a supervisory job. She says she has a whole interview on my YouTube page. The link is in the bio. You go check it out. Where she tells me that she took her social service job because she thought it was a macro social work job. And Monet's resume intensive, we were just talking because it's a 2-hour session when you working with me on your. Once you come through my program, you get a 2-hour resume writing intensive with me. We were in hour 2, and we at the bottom of hour 2. I said, "Have you ever fundraised?" She was like, "No," because that's always y'all first answer. Y'all love to say no to everything. No, I've never done that. No, I don't have experience. So because I'm a former case manager, and because I'm knowledgeable about what case management what it looks like on the micro level and how that translates on the macro level, I was like, "Monet, you've never fundraised anything? You all never sold candy or chocolate or something to raise money or donations for the people that you were serving?" She was like, "Yeah, actually, it was this one time I led a team and we raised over $1 million." What? You raised over $1 million and you led the team? And she said it so casually. So casually. And this is what I shared in the free workshop that I did on Monday. If you missed it, that means you need to start checking your emails, because I sent out an invite to a private free workshop that I had on Monday. And what I share with the people is that I want you to get better at telling people what you do. Why? Because a lot of you are walking around thinking that what you do from day to day in your case management job is nothing. You think it's real average, right? And so when you start telling people and you see their reaction to the thing, that will help you start realizing the magnitude of what you're doing. So Monet was like, "Yeah, I raised $1 million." I said, "Tell me a little bit more about this $1 million." And so what we ended up doing was putting that on her resume, and she landed a macro job with a national philanthropic foundation, and she now does philanthropy work using just her case management, social service, nonprofit background. She actually just got promoted. She's now the director of the department, the family fund that she was over. She's only been in that job for 2 years. My people advance in their macro career every 2 years as a part of the career plan. In the micro and the macro career accelerator, I teach them how to plan for their career. We don't let it just happen for us, right? We take charge of our career. So Monet just got a promotion. So I want to say that you too can do the same thing. You just have to be taught how to, one, get clarity around what type of job you want, how you want your work to look like, which then will tell you the steps you need to take from there, which will then teach you how to write your resume. I will teach you how to write your resume. And then it will also teach you on like what is possible for you in your career. I heard someone recently say, one of my coaching clients say that she was like, "I just feel like I don't know what steps I should be taking." I say less. Say less. All right, you're in the right place. I'm going to teach you the stuff. So I'm going to actually teach you a strategy for the blueprint, right? What you need to be doing. And that's what I'm going to be teaching on Saturday. Saturday, I'm going to be teaching like the overall blueprint. All of the things that you need to be doing in your career right now, even while still in your case management job. Because the sad truth is, a lot of people like to wait until the point of no return. The point of no return, when you are burned out, when you are burnt crispy, to start thinking about your career. You cannot think about your career when you're burnt out. You need to be in recovery. You need to go sit down somewhere taking care of yourself. This is why you need to be working on these things in your case management job while you are still fresh, while things are still going well, not when things go off of the rails and then you're like, okay, I want to go learn about what else can I do. At that point, you are not in a state to really learn anything new. You just need to be taking care of yourself. So on Saturday, I'm having a workshop to teach how to land a high-paying macro social work job. My people only get high-paying jobs. We don't apply for $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 jobs. That's not what we do. That's not what we do. My people get high-paying jobs, whatever high-paying is for you. I'll just say that a multitude of my clients have landed six-figure macro jobs, but I know that's not everybody's goalpost. Okay. Another myth is that you must be licensed to get a macro job. That is a lie. You don't need a license. If you want a license, you could go get you a clinical license. But again, macro level work is not just done by social workers. It's done by people with JD degrees, people with public health degrees, people with policy degrees, people with MBAs. They don't have clinical licensure. All right. All of my colleagues in Washington, D.C., I was the only social worker other than my executive director, but she was an OG social worker. And she had no clinical licensure. She didn't even self-identify as a social worker. All right. You look at her CV, she had social work nowhere on there. She only self-disclosed that because I led with that information. However, all of my colleagues in Washington, D.C., they were not social workers. I was the only one on staff. I was the unicorn. Right? They were from a diverse background. People from criminal justice backgrounds. People with education degrees. You don't have to have a license. It's a lie. If you want to get one, get one. Many of my coaching clients go on to get licensure as a part of being in the community and working with me as their career coach. But do I teach clinical licensure? No. I've never had a license. I don't know what that is. I don't talk about that process. That's not my wheelhouse. However, there is power in getting career coaching. Right? What they shared is that I was finally able to pass the clinical examination because I'm sitting in a space once a week with a like-minded community talking about my career, talking about my goals for the week and what my action steps are going to be to get what I need. And many of them every week was like, I want to study 4 exams. Okay. And they got licensure, 4 of them. But you don't need a license to get a macro job. That's a lie. And another one that I wanted to name was that you have to be extroverted. So this kind of goes with the introvert that I was talking about earlier. A lot of social workers believe that you have to be the front facing, and I talked about this earlier, but I really want to go deep into this one. A lot of social workers believe that you have to be the face of an organization. I have to be the CEO, or I have to start my own organization, or I have to start my own thing, or I have to be at the podium and be on the press release. And because you are not extroverted, that stops you in your desire to want to make the pivot. But I want to say again, you do not have to be an extrovert or be a person that wants to be seen publicly to do macro level work. Every national and international organization has a support team behind the scenes that is the brains in behind the machine. You can be a part of that. I was doing some job searching the other day with my coaching with the Micro to Macro Career Accelerator coaching participants. And I found this job when we were job searching where they were looking for a political press reporter. I remember telling my people on the coaching call, I was like, this would be perfect for a social worker who always wanted to be something, do something in media, who always wanted to be a reporter, but for whatever reason had to stop that program and go into social work. And I told them, I was like, see, people don't believe you could do whatever you want to do on a national level. You just need to be committed to the cause. That's all you need is passion about the thing. So if you ever had a desire to be a reporter, or if you love to write, a lot of you love to write. You have blogs, you have online things that you share, magazines. You can get a job getting paid big bucks to do it, and do it remotely from your home or get paid to travel. Right? You don't have to do back-breaking work every day, all day for the rest of your life. And that's not realistic if you think about it. It's good at first. Now, don't get me wrong. What I teach my coaching clients is that case management jobs are the gold mine to get the macro experience that you need to get the macro job that you want. However, you will never be able to strategically maximize and capitalize on that experience without working with me. I don't know what to say. I don't know another way to say it, because I can teach you how to find jobs that really will position you to be a top candidate based on where you've been in the world. And I just want to also maybe throw in this one, that you can do whatever you want to do. You can do whatever you want to do. If you are going by those lists that I can't stand that float around on the social work internet streets around, what can I do with my MSW degree or BSW degree? You going about it all wrong. You let other people live your life for you, and you better wake up. You can do whatever you want. If you're going by that list and saying, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, which one will I do this month? That's the wrong way. You can do what you want to do. There are jobs out there, and they are actively hiring. Sad but true fact. Our industry is not like any other industry. We will always be in demand. Sad but true facts. We will always be in demand. This is why you need to be taking time now, before you reach the point of no return, before you reach burnout, to arm yourself with the requisite tools and information to really take charge of your career and go by what the actual job market says, not what your coworker who's been a case manager for 25 years tells you. Because guess what? You're going to look up in 3 years and 4 years and 5 years, and you're going to have a lot of regrets. I had a lot of people when I first started the micro to macro career accelerator who just wanted to join to be taught what options they had. They weren't necessarily ready to lead clinical work. They weren't necessarily ready to lead non-clinical work, but they at least wanted to know how to identify what other career options they had so they could make the pivot when they were ready. Because that work at some point in time will take a toll on your mind, your body, your emotions, your mental health. It wears you down. And you're not going to be able to do it until retirement. And if you know anyone that does, tell me if they are in the same shape they were in when they first went in that position. Those positions are entry level. It means you get in, you get a little experience, get your feet wet. I say 2 years, and then you move on. Not stay for years and go from one job to another job and to another job. That's the quickest way to decrease your longevity in the job market. There's a lot of social workers that just are right now walking completely away from the profession in the job market. They just quit. They don't have a job lined up. They don't have any other options. They need to work. However, they can't work because they're so severely burned out. And so my word of encouragement is don't be that way. But more than that, you are the next generation of leaders. And the world is waiting on you. It's waiting on your ideas. It's waiting on your thoughts, your contributions. It's waiting on your new innovative approaches. The jobs are out there. You can blend whatever you like. So I encourage you to come to my workshop on Saturday and come learn the blueprint, the actual steps, the strategic moves that you should be making right now while as a case manager. And it does not include going back to school. It does not include networking. It does not include taking a demotion. It does not include volunteering. Insert whatever lie you've been told. It's none of that. You can get a macro job today, right? But many of you are going about it the hard way, the long way, the unnecessary way, because people have fed you lie after lie after lie after lie because they didn't have a system. I have a system. I perfected the system with my own career. I've had 5 macro jobs. And I've since then rinsed and repeated that and taught it to 170 plus other social workers to help them get macro jobs. I've taken out all of the guesswork. I've taken out all the hard stuff. I've done all of the trial and error. Now you just need to be committed and do the work because it works. So I encourage you to come to the workshop on Saturday. It is less than your favorite Starbucks combo meal that you get on your way to work. Come learn the steps. You have nothing to lose but to arm yourself with information and start shifting from having low career intent to high career intent, because the people are lying to you. They lying to you. They've been lying to you since day one, telling you couldn't do this and you can't do that and you only could do this and you have to go take this low-paying job to get this. It's a lie. You ain't got to do none of that. It ain't that hard to get a macro job But you got to know how to position yourself in the job market. And you got to be clear about what type of job you want. And you got to know what a macro employer prioritizes in candidates. I can teach you all of that in 3 months or less. All right, attend the workshop. The link is in the bio. Happy macro career planning. Bye.